exercise. So just like you and I need exercise daily to get our heart rates pumping, to stay healthy, so do these guys. So since they are here with us and they were all born in human care, they need to make sure to get that exercise. So in the ocean, they're going to be getting most of their exercise by hunting for food throughout their day and scavenging to find that to supply themselves and their families with that food. But here, they get their food supplied for them. So they're not having to hunt and exercise in that way, so we help them do that as well. We've actually done an exercise study with some of our whales here and some whales in San Diego SeaWorld, and we found that it takes about 6 or 7 minutes of constant movement or breath holding to really get their heart rates pumping based on the size of these whales right here. So we like to give them constant movement. It also enriches their lives daily. So this is the kind of thing that we will do. Ask them for multiple different behaviors for them to jump up, hold their breath in different ways to really get their heart rate moving, to keep them healthy on a daily basis. We also do many other kinds of sessions, one of those being husbandry sessions. And a husbandry session is anything that helps us take better care of them. So we do monthly physicals on each of our whales. That can consist of a blood sample, a blood draw from their tail flukes. If you guys saw our presentation today, you might have heard a little bit about that. We also weigh our whales weekly. Other things that are included in our monthly physicals could be blow cultures. We can do sonograms quarterly on their lungs and also on their ovaries for our females as well. Our females are also taught to urinate in a cup. So we show them a cup as a stimulus, and they slide up and they urinate into that. We can use that to test for mini testosterone levels and things like that. Another sample we can get that we get during our monthly physicals are our fecal samples. And we've actually recently been involved in a fecal study. It's one of my favorite studies to talk about. It might sound gross to start. But what's so interesting about it is we're able to know exactly what our animals eat every single day and how healthy those fish are. In the wild, there's a lot of areas and populations of killer whales that are endangered based on the food supply they have around and the toxicity of some of that fish. So knowing that, we are able to get fecal samples from our healthy whales, knowing exactly what they're eating. We take fish samples from all of our fish every month to dissect that as well. And we can compare that to different fecal samples of whales in the wild. Now, how do you think they get fecal samples from whales in the wild? It's pretty complicated. So what they ended up doing was a few scientists and trainers worked together, and they trained some dogs to actually learn to sniff out whale fecal matter in the wild. So they take those dogs out on boats, and they're able to sniff that out, and they can collect it because it will float on the surface of the water. And through that, we're able to test those fecal samples from those populations that might be eating more toxic fish, and compare it to our healthy animals here and the fish that they are eating. So it's very interesting. They're still writing a paper upon it. But it's one of my most favorite studies to talk about because they're fecal samples. Another type of session that we do here is a learn session. So these guys get constant stimulation throughout their day. And one of the ways that we can do that and supply for them is by teaching them new things. So like I said, all of these whales here, all 5 of our whales, were born in human care. So they've been learning things their whole lives. But they're constantly learning new things, either concepts that they don't know or new behaviors altogether. So we train using operant conditioning, which basically means changing the result of a behavior will change the frequency of it. So it'll either increase a behavior that we like or decrease a behavior. So we use positive reinforcement, so giving them anything that they seem to enjoy. Our primary form of reinforcement will be that fish that they eat every single day. Our largest whale right now is eating 145 pounds of fish every single day. And Kamea, our smallest, is eating about 85 pounds. So all throughout their day, they get that fish spread out, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all you can ask, all you can eat, all day long. But our other ways to reinforce, there's so many other ways. These guys are very visually enriched, so we can do visual enrichment. So if you ever see us jumping around like crazy with stuffed animals or streamers or bubbles, that's because they really do seem to enjoy watching us interact in those ways with those different devices. They're also very tactile animals, so one way we like to reinforce them is by giving them different back scratches, back rubs. Also helps their skin shed throughout their day. They also do seem to enjoy things like ice, jello, whipped cream, things that our vets have approved for them to have other than fish. So they don't have the same they don't have taste buds the same way you and I do, but they do swallow everything whole, and they do seem to enjoy that ice because at the end of the day, it's paired with their fish throughout the day, so that's another way that we can reinforce our every single day. I'm going to talk a little bit about their adaptations that they have. As you notice, they are darker on their backs and lighter on their bellies. That's a form of camouflage called counter shading. So that light belly is actually going to blend in with the ocean floor if animals are looking up at them. And if they're looking down and see a killer whale, they're going to see that dark back. And that, or I said it opposite, I'm so sorry. Ocean floor is going to blend in with their dark back, and the white on their belly is going to blend in with the sun coming down. I'm so sorry about that. Another form of camouflage they have is that eye patch on the side of their head, so their eyes are actually right in front and below that eye patch. So that helps hide their eye, which is a vulnerable place for them. So if they're attacking prey, and that if they decide to try to attack back, they might go for that eye patch thinking it's their eye when it's really not. So that's another way they can win. They are an apex predator, top predator of the ocean, so they really have no predators of their own besides humans, of course. So they travel in pods and they hunt in pods and they're always together, and that's what makes them an apex predator. A lot of people ask who would win if a great white shark was coming up upon orcas. The answer is orcas, because there's always so many of them together, whereas sharks travel solo most of the time. So like I said, this is Kamea on the left-hand side. On the right is her mother, Takara. One way you can tell them apart is Sakari does have a birthmark on her lower rostrum, kind of like where her chin you would think would be. And they all have their own birthmarks and different attributes about them. We also have 3 other whales that I'll mention at this moment. Sakari, who's their sibling, or Kamea's sibling, who's 12 years old, and she's in the other pool over here with one of her environmental enrichment devices, which is basically a fancy word for a toy. We have tons of toys for these guys that we give them throughout our day. And she's hanging out over there right now. She's 12 years old. And then we have 2 male killer whales. Kayuka is our largest. Right now he's weighing in about 9,560 pounds. And Tuar, his half-brother, is 23 years old, and he's weighing about 8,300 pounds. I'm going to do a couple of vocalizations for you guys, so let's take a listen and see what we can hear. As you maybe could see, came right out of that blowhole on the top of their melon there. So they do not have vocal cords the same way you and I do. They all come from their melon, so they move it into different shapes and sizes to make all kinds of different sounds. They also communicate using their body and slapping it on the surface in different manners. So that's a way that they can communicate as well, other than just those vocalizations. They do hear on a higher frequency than we do. That's why we utilize this whistle that we wear around our necks. It's called a bridge. So every time they're doing a correct behavior, we will blow that whistle, and they can hear that through all the music and our presentations and all the talking that I'm doing right now. They can hear it. They have a higher frequency of hearing. And the way that we know that is we actually did a hearing test with some of our whales, and we found out that they have great hearing above and below the surface of the water. We actually taught them to go down and do similar to a hearing test that you and I would do with the doctor. Have you guys ever taken a hearing test? Exactly. So you boop the little button whenever it beeps. So they were taught to blow bubbles underwater on a specific area every time they heard different tones. So that's how we can test their hearing. And that information that we gained, we're actually able to use to help law enforcers make different laws for boat trafficking in different areas around the Pacific Northwest, where there's a lot of boats and things happening, but there are many populations of killer whales and other animals there as well. So it looks like we're going to take a little bit of a break. If you guys have any questions, like I said, Carrie and I will be around here to answer them, and then we'll be back around here in a little bit, so enjoy your time.